James replaces Harry on the balcony. Catherine's position changes amid Charles's new health. Meghan Markle is once again sitting at the center of a royal mess. But this time, the controversy is not about a red carpet, a Hollywood friendship, or another awkward public appearance. This time, Prince Harry has made a move involving money, charity, and his mother's legacy that has people asking a brutally uncomfortable question. Was this really about charity, or was it revenge?
Shames this man. Shames this man. Proves this man does not give a damn about the people who he claims to be his life's work.
The timing is what makes this story so explosive. After years of attaching his name, his mother's legacy, and his public identity to Sentebale, Harry has now redirected money away from the very charity he helped create. And suddenly, what might normally look like a routine charitable decision is being examined like a clue in a much bigger royal mystery.
And you are saying to those people, Harry, because of your personal row with Dr. Sophie Chandauka, because your wife treated her like a piece of crap, you were saying to those people they're not deserving of Princess Diana's money? I'm sorry. You might not want to hear this, but you need to hear this. Diana would be ashamed of this decision, and no amount of PR spin will convince me otherwise.
For years, Sentebale represented something powerful in Harry's public image. It was connected to his charitable work, his relationship with Africa, and the legacy of Diana. But now the relationship has collapsed spectacularly. His relationship with the organization has collapsed. His relationship with its chair, Dr. Sophie Chandauka, has collapsed. The charity is locked in a legal fight with him. Meghan's name has been dragged into the feud, and now the money is going somewhere else. That is where the questions become impossible to ignore. Is this simply a change in charitable priorities? Is it a warning? Is it a message? Or is this the final slap in the face after one of the bitterest fallouts Harry has experienced since leaving royal life? For months, the breakdown between Harry, Meghan, and Sophie Chandauka has looked less like an ordinary professional disagreement and more like a personal war exploding in public. Sophie did not quietly disappear. She did not simply resign and walk away. She spoke out and made serious allegations while Harry rejected the claims made against him. The relationship deteriorated publicly, and then the organization Harry once proudly helped build ended up suing him for defamation over allegations that he helped coordinate an adverse media campaign that damaged the charity's reputation and disrupted its work. And suddenly, the man who was once presented as the charity's co-founder is now facing that charity as a legal opponent. Stop and think about that for a second. How does an organization that formed such a major part of Harry's public identity end up on the other side of a courtroom battle? And why does Meghan's name keep appearing in the middle of the story? Sentebale means forget-me-not in the African language referenced in the transcript. The irony is almost impossible to miss. Harry helped build this organization, spent years connecting his name to it, and now critics are accusing him of effectively forgetting the charity at the exact moment its relationship with him has become toxic. Then came the moment that critics repeatedly replayed as evidence that tensions between Meghan and Sophie were already becoming intensely personal. Whether that particular public moment caused anything cannot be proven, but what happened afterward is much harder to dismiss. The relationship did not recover. It deteriorated further. Now look at the sequence, because this is where the controversy becomes almost impossible for critics to ignore. Public tension, a leadership fight, resignations, accusations, legal threats, a defamation case, and then, after years of directing money towards Sentebale, Harry changes course. Harry's share of proceeds connected to the Diana Memorial Fund had been directed towards Sentebale for years. Since 2020, the charity received tens of thousands of pounds through that arrangement, including more than 16,000 in 2024. Then came 2025. Harry's share, just over 5,000, went instead to Elephants Without Borders, a Botswana-based conservation organization with long-standing links to Harry and Meghan. And that is where the symbolism suddenly becomes bigger than the money itself, because 5,000 is not enough to transform Prince Harry's finances. It is not some enormous financial rescue package. It is a relatively small amount, which means critics are asking why the decision happened now, precisely when the relationship with Sentebale had become so bitter. Elephants Without Borders is a legitimate charitable cause, and supporting wildlife conservation is not itself controversial. Harry has a long connection to Botswana, and there is nothing inherently wrong with supporting another organization. But that is not the question everyone is asking. The question is, why now? Why after the implosion with Sentebale? Why after the fight with Sophie? Why after Harry stepped away? Why Why after the legal conflict? And this is where the story becomes even more uncomfortable, because every public figure can have a professional dispute, every organization can experience a leadership battle, and every relationship can eventually break down. But how many times can the same pattern repeat before people stop calling it bad luck? Friends disappear, business relationships sour, staff leave, partnerships collapse, former allies become critics, and now one of Harry's most personal charitable connections has turned into a legal war. The problem is not simply that Harry and Sentebale fell out. The problem is what happened after the fallout. Harry could have walked away from the organization while allowing the existing charitable arrangement to continue. He could have supported Elephants Without Borders separately. He could have made another donation. Instead, the money connected to the Diana Memorial Fund was redirected at precisely the moment when the relationship with Sentebale had become toxic. That timing is why critics see something more emotional behind the decision. And yes, the amount is small. That almost makes the controversy worse, because this is not about a giant financial calculation that could somehow explain everything. It is about symbolism. It is about a charity in one of the poorest parts of the world losing money that had previously been associated with Harry's charitable legacy. Critics are calling the move petty, cruel, and retaliatory. Harry, however, has denied the allegations surrounding the wider dispute, and there is no evidence proving that revenge was his private motive. But Meghan remains part of the shadow hanging over this story. There is no evidence that Meghan ordered Harry to redirect the money, and that distinction matters. Yet Meghan's public interaction with Sophie became part of the wider controversy, and critics have repeatedly argued that the relationship between Harry and Sophie changed dramatically as tensions surrounding Meghan intensified. That means even a decision made by Harry alone immediately gets pulled back into the larger Sussex narrative. And then comes the devastating question, what would Diana have thought? The charity Harry helped create in her honor was supposed to represent compassion, service, and a continuing legacy. Now that same charity is involved in a legal dispute with him, while money associated with his mother's memorial fund is moving elsewhere. Critics argue that the positive image surrounding the charitable work has been completely reversed. The contradiction is brutal. Harry's public brand has depended heavily on compassion. He has spent years speaking about service, mental health, veterans, vulnerable communities, and charitable causes. That humanitarian image was supposed to be the part of his reputation untouched by royal family conflict, interviews, lawsuits, and celebrity drama. But now, even that supposedly safe ground is producing controversy. What happens when the humanitarian brand starts generating the same headlines as the family feud? That is the real danger, because Harry could have supported both causes. He could have separated his personal dispute from the charitable mission. Instead, the decision has created a headline that practically writes itself. Harry redirected money after a bitter fallout with the charity he helped create. And now, Elephants Without Borders brings another layer into the story. Harry and Meghan have long had connections to Botswana, and elephants have already been wrapped into their family imagery. 2 elephants were given the names Archie and Lily, with Archie reportedly choosing a blue tracking collar and Lily selecting purple. Again, there is absolutely nothing wrong with supporting conservation. But look at the contrast critics see. On one side is Sentebale, the organization tied to Sophie and the bitter legal dispute. On the other is an organization connected to Botswana, memories involving Harry and Meghan, and animals carrying the names of their children. That makes the move look, to critics, less like an ordinary administrative change and more like Harry choosing which part of his story he wants to keep. And that brings the controversy back to the larger Sussex problem. The organization connected to Sentebale is now fighting Harry in court, while other Sussex charitable ventures have faced their own controversies and pressures. The Invictus connection has also been pulled into discussions about sponsors and sustainability. Suddenly, the very causes that were supposed to strengthen Harry and Meghan's independent public identity are becoming entangled with questions about leadership, relationships, money, and reputation. The tragedy is that people are no longer talking primarily about the young people Sentebale exists to help. They are talking about Harry, Meghan, Sophie, lawsuits, money, revenge, and the feud. That is the real reputational disaster. And the legal cloud has not disappeared. Sentebale has accused Harry of involvement in an adverse media campaign that it says caused operational disruption and reputational harm. Harry rejects those allegations. The dispute remains unresolved, meaning more details could potentially emerge. Internal communications, behind-the-scenes disagreements, and accounts from people around the organization could all become part of the public conversation. So the money has moved, but the controversy has not. If anything, thing, Harry's decision has forced everyone to look directly at the relationship that collapsed, the allegations that followed, and the question nobody can seem to escape: why do so many relationships around Harry and Meghan end with accusations, lawyers, public humiliation, or bitter fallout? That is why this story is bigger than a few £1,000s. The money is merely the clue. The real story is the breakdown behind it, and that chapter is clearly not finished yet.